The information provided in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice.
Hey, it's Nikki. Thrilled to hand the mic over to our friends at TestRxMD. You might remember David and me sharing our pretty in-depth health journey last year, from a devastating diagnosis to our taking health by the driver's seat. We chose to partner A to B first with the health professionals that have helped us most. Collectively, David and I, we lost over 60 pounds, and so many other aspects of our health have us feeling more lively and confident these days. So look, we're on a learning journey with you, and we know you agree. Health is so crucial to our ability to live our best lives. P.S. Don't wait to hit this team up at TestRxMD for a free concierge coaching call. There's a link in the show notes, or feel free to ask us. But this action could be the start of a whole new you. It was for us. So I'm passing the mic to our partners at TestRxMD.
The next part is probably going to be one of Leslie's favorites. It's going to be the supplements and biohacking. So we're already at about the 30-minute mark. So we're going to be a little abrupt after this segment, just because this segment's pretty large normally, into some of the biohacking techniques that I've personally enjoyed and had a lot of value with, that I can get into from personal experiences on top of just the supplementation. So I'll kind of get into the biohacking stuff first and then kind of just segue it off to you guys. So for the biohacking techniques that I've gone through, I actually know a couple of really good friends that have created their own mats. They're almost like yoga mats that are biohacking mats. The companies Align, and we'll put sources on here to where you guys can go and order some of their stuff if you want to try it out or explore that arena. But basically this kind of goes along the same idea of so you've got cold exposure therapy, so like cold plunge pools, you've got red light therapy, and then PEMF. That's kind of what we'll touch on here, because those are three basics that are pretty easy. Again, the cold exposure therapy kind of aligns with how do you stress your body a certain amount to grow, but not so much that it's just so daunting that you shut down. So when you get into that cold plunge pool, you're exposing your body to pretty cold temperatures so that you get a reaction from your body to induce healing at a much faster rate. And that's kind of the higher level thinking, and Dr. Saddoris can kind of get into the medical aspect of that. Red light therapy. So red light therapy is a specific wavelength of light that actually penetrates your skin, not super deep, but enough to where you can absorb frequencies. And there are some devices that have like frequencies that are overlaid or other aspects of that to tweak your healing, but a lot of that's for recovery. Muscle soreness and stuff like that. And then PEMF is kind of a way of thinking about like Wi-Fi or anything like that, but like in healing ways. So specific frequencies and magnetic frequencies, electromagnetic, kind of go together, that your body absorbed through right spin devices as they emit, so that that's imprinting upon you. And you can do everything from like different chakra exercises, from like grounding yourself to enhancing spiritual connection, energy, concentration, all sorts of things. So I'll kind of pass that off to Dr. Saddoris and Leslie first. We'll have Dr. Saddoris kind of go over the cold exposure therapy and kind of the medical things you can do for anti-aging.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing about the cold plunge, which is something I've never really enjoyed doing, but what happens is that when you suddenly drop your body temperature, your body's immediate response is to start producing heat. Okay. And so it starts the shiver mechanism, but the increase in heat is actually increase in blood flow. And so the increase in blood flow is removing toxins out of your system. It's removing, if you've got like an injury to a muscle, you get buildup of lactic acid, and that increased blood flow is removing that lactic acid out. It's getting the soreness out. You can't stay in that state very long, because then you start injuring yourself again when you are getting too low, and you can start getting cells that are getting injured. But that cold plunge, I hear a lot of people here out in Vegas, they don't bother heating their pool, even in the winter. They just jump in there, they swim for like 2 minutes, and then they're out, and the guys will tell me the most invigorating part of their day. It just kind of shuts them off, It just kind of like gets your blood flowing. there are some techniques, they do a Tai Chi where you move your arms back and forth and you slap them behind you across your abdomen. Again, a way of moving and increasing energy flow to kind of help with that. But yeah, the cold plunge, I'm just always cold-blooded. So it's not something that I really do. It's cold enough to be in a warm, tepid tub than a freezing one. So
that's one of the things that I really struggle with. And I know the benefits of the cold plunge, but I despise being cold. Like I just, it's one of those things, like I know the benefits and, it's been practiced with athletes, for a very long time. They do the ice baths and things like that, or after a game to do exactly what you were speaking of. But yeah, I struggle with that mightily because I know it's great. It's beneficial. I struggle really bad with that, And then another point before you take over, John, but maybe you could talk about that, is there's multiple different types of red light therapy. So there's the near infrared, which, is the one we're really looking for, I believe. If memory serves me correctly, I'd have to look at that again, but I think that's it.
Yeah, so you definitely nailed that one on the head. They actually have saunas too that incorporate infrared and near infrared. They actually have saunas that do like more full spectrum to where you get both far, near, and everything in between. And they basically just use different wavelengths. So typically for like the near infrared lights, if I remember correctly, I think you have like 810 nanometers, 850, and I think 940 that all kind of do something separate for increasing oxygen absorption, blood flow, and it also can help reduce free radicals, along with like copper peptides can also do the free radical side as well. But that's kind of just a higher level, and we're definitely going to cover some of these devices in future episodes. That's why I don't want to kind of go into the granular aspect of these things, because we'll have dedicated episode but kind of go over some of these devices that either I've used or have been exposed to. And obviously Leslie and Dr. Saddoris will provide their own as well. They've had their experiences with. And so now I guess we get the fun part of getting into supplements and what all can you take to increase longevity. We've heard everything. I mean, I've heard everything from like resveratrol to like NAD, which is a very popular one, but then getting into like other ways of getting that NAD into your body by maybe taking things that have higher bioavailability, like precursors. And I'll kind of let Dr. Saddoris kind of get into that.
I think the common peptides that we deal with, especially if you scan, is the GHK copper. Now it has been shown to increase collagen production. It does have a reduction of wrinkles. It reduces inflammation, improves elasticity. So it helps more hydrated skin. And a lot of people love that. And using that with retinol, which is a vitamin A derivative that also helps increase collagen. And then also improve cellular turnover. So that way the old cells slough off quicker and you have newer cells. And so they're fresher and more flexible and have a more dewy look to it. And then we have the peptides injections. And one of them is the NAD, really popular right now, mainly because it is involved in every cell of our body. It's a natural enzyme in our body. And it's nicotinamide, amino. It basically is involved as a cofactor for energy production. And as I mentioned before, if we don't produce enough energy, our cells are dying because it requires a lot of energy, to run a motor, right? And if you can't make enough energy, then the motor's not going to work as well, right? And so the thing with NAD is that it's a active form of niacin. And the trouble with niacin, in one form it causes liver damage, in another form it causes ear flushing. So it's really hard to get. You need a certain amount of that in your diet, but it's difficult to get amounts that you might want to need for the NAD. And NAD also has its own potential concerns. It can affect the kidneys. And so if you are having, moderate to severe kidney problems, or if you have any liver issues, it's something that we don't recommend people taking. But it does help with the mitochondria and it helps improve energy production. It reduces oxidative stress, which is the part that causes damage to the cells. It reduces inflammation. Anytime you reduce oxidative stress, you automatically reduce inflammation, because that's what oxidative stress does, is create inflammation. And it has neural protective effects and also cardioprotective effects. So, and it actually protects our mitochondria from damage, which the ones that produce the energy. So to get proper absorption of that product, you really need to put it in a form that's a liposome, which is kind of a fat covering around it in order for it to be absorbed if you're taking it orally. You can take it in an IV infusion. The problem with that is it's an IV, and you've got to go somewhere and have it infused. It has to be at a controlled rate. You have to have somebody who knows what they're doing, right? And then if you do have it in liposomal formulation, they usually like you to have her put it in a black pepper type formulation to improve absorption to the product. And, you have to make sure that you have a certain amount of it that you need. Sometimes you need like 500 milligrams or so of it to get to dosage that you want. And it does help improve hair growth, helps improve weight loss. So, just because of the increase in energy it's producing. So I think that's a great peptide to have. People show in their early 30s that their enzyme level of this product dramatically is dropping. I think it's over 50% drop at that age. At 60, it's about 80% drop of NAD. And that's why as we get older, we are more tired and fatigued. Also, another great product is glutathione. This is a powerful antioxidant. It's one of the major antioxidants in our body. And it also helps, again, anytime you prevent any damage to the cells, it's going to help every cell in your body. So it's anti-aging on the skin, it's anti-aging on your brain, it's anti-aging on your lungs, and also your mitochondria. But I usually like to also add that in kind of a liposomal formulation, and I like to throw vitamin C with it because it also is combined together. It's kind of like adding 1 + 1 instead of being 2, it becomes 4. They kind of have a synergistic effect together when you take it with vitamin C. And so it's not uncommon to see those two together. It also helps protect the phospholipids, which is the part that keeps your cell together and keeps the water outside the cell and keeps the water in the cell. So it forms a barrier and it allows the cell to maintain its integrity. If you break that barrier down, then the cell is going to die. So it also has some unique properties. They've been using it for people that have really bad asthma that's just not responding, severe or intractable. They've given them glutathione, and a good half of people had recovered from it. They found in certain types of autism in children has been beneficial with that. So there is a disease also that has a reduction of producing glutathione. And so that's something that they have to get regular treatment for. So definitely those are products. If I was going to choose, those would be the two products, and maybe the copper peptides is the ones that I would probably want to concentrate on. So if I can keep my energy cells up, that's going to make me feel better, and we're going to look better. And then if I already have some damaging cells, then adding the copper peptides will help improve the elasticity of your skin and help improve collagen production there. But they're used very complementary with each other.
And that we've talked about too a lot. And I personally take it. I know you personally take it as well. So I want to make sure that we touched on this so that if people were wanting this compound, that we could source it for them, methylene blue. You can kind of get into that, but at a high level, it increases mitochondrial function, lowers inflammation, increases your cognitive function, and then ultimately increases your lifespan.
The only contraindication, to methylene blue is that there is certain products out, mainly some antidepressants, that if you take it with high dose methylene blue, you can get a potential reaction of something called serotonin syndrome, where you get a very elevated blood pressure, you can get agitation. To be honest with you, I have had patients on multiple serotonergic drugs before and other drugs, and I have never seen this condition in my 35 years of treatment. Now, granted, I don't go with massive doses of things, but, they put this in as a precautionary item. And so I always let people be aware if you're on any kind of psychiatric type medication, and definitely check with maybe your family doctor, whatever. But if you do start on it, you want to start on low doses, which is what we do. We find that low doses of methylene blue is extremely effective. But like any medication, there is a range of benefits, right? If you go way above it, it's going to be detrimental. And if you're under it, you're not going to get that much benefit. So as long as you stay in the doses that we have with the products, I've personally not seen any issues. But again, I always tell people to be cautionary. If you're on certain medications that can increase serotonin in your system, which are mainly the antidepressants, the SSRIs, SNRIs, those are the ones that you would want to, if you did start very low and see how it's doing.
Awesome. Now we can move over to Leslie's side and for things that maybe give you longevity performance-wise.
I been doing this a long time, and the problem with where I live, and I mean the realm of which I live, is that supplements that I deal with are not regulated in any way whatsoever, which is a problem when you go to take them, because you don't really know what the heck you're getting.
Exactly.
I do take an NAD orally, and we'll talk after, see if I should switch to some sort of injection or something better. But yeah, I do, basic, dietary, supplements, antioxidants, anti-inflammatory stuff, omega-3s, curcumin, vitamin C, E. I used to do CoQ10, and you can speak on that probably a little bit more than I can. But I didn't think I needed it anymore, so I kind of got off that one. But yeah, it's kind of hard unless you're talking about those groups. I typically don't recommend a whole lot of supplements unless you're talking about the ones I just mentioned, the NAD and vitamin C, E, and omega-3s. And yeah, that's probably about all I usually recommend. And I, when it comes to that, other things for muscle growth and things like that. But from a supplement standpoint, increase in protein and, creatines or other supplements that, that I usually recommend. But it's really hard in this realm to kind of say, hey, take this or, this, because you really don't know that, unless you want to put in some peptides in there as a type of supplements, and then we could, do that there. But that's another, that's probably a whole nother podcast we're going to throw up there. But, when you talk about, regenerative medications and cutting edge therapies, that's probably the more of the side that I would probably fall on versus supplements. So I think some of the supplements out there, it's not that I think, I know a lot of these supplements out there probably increase your inflammation and things like that because they're just not good. Think about some of these ones that these people take from pre-workout drinks and things like that. I did away with pre-workout drinks and went just to, coffee, pre-workout coffee. So I found out I feel better during my workouts and things like that. But yeah, the supplement industry is a really tough one to scratch the surface on when it comes to the really healthy side. And that's what we're about, is longevity, anti-aging.
One thing I would preface this on, I probably wouldn't recommend vitamin E. They did do a study probably about 15 years ago on vitamin E. They were looking at maybe seeing if it would be protective of certain things. And the study, I don't know if it was really that well controlled, but there was an increase in people that had died on vitamin E than those who didn't. And so they never could really understand the mechanism of that. And of course, I'm sure dosage and all of those kind of things. And I think that there's a lot of other great treatments for inflammation, like vitamin C is a great product. Those would be the ones that I would recommend on treatment. In terms of CoQ10, it depends on the formulation. If it's a ketone, which ends with an O-N-E, so when you look at it, if the word says O-N-E, ketones do not absorb. Okay, so you're wasting your money. But if you have it ending with an O-L, which is an alcohol base, then they easily transport through the cells and get into your body. So that one, depending on its formulation, would determine whether you'll be getting any benefit or not. I used to take that myself. I personally did not find that it gave me any energy. I do think that, maybe people that are on cholesterol medications, because the way the cholesterol is being blocked, they can't produce the CoQ10. And those people, that would probably be a great supplement to be on. But if you're not taking, or you're a Crestor or a Lipitor or a Protostatin or a Simvastatin, then you probably may try it, see if it helps. But for myself, I didn't find that it seemed to make a difference. And I took it for about 3 months to just, see how it was doing.
The one I failed to mention that you could probably elaborate on that I take, and depending on what you say, I may not take it anymore. But I take magnesium every night, before I go to bed. And there's different, I don't know if they're different formulas or what. There's I can't think of the one that I take right now.
I take glycinate.
A fast absorbing.
Yeah, glycinate is probably less GI effect on it, good absorption. Yeah, the problem with magnesium is that you probably need to take a zinc with it. When we take certain minerals, then sometimes it may not get the full benefit without having a little bit. I see a lot of people take zinc, and then they show that they also need to take something else with it to help with this absorption. So
definitely balanced. Now, another one I know that I wanted to make sure we included was NMN as a precursor for NAD. And that seems to have a higher bioavailability when taken orally as well. Normally, I think we cut a dose, and being normally around 1,000 milligrams per dose. And they do have products out there, again, supplements. It's such a huge industry that there are going to be people out there that are trying to just make a buck. So you need to really make sure that your products are not only first party tested, but third party tested and are reputable. I would not just send somebody to Walmart and say, hey, go pick up all these supplements, because likely those are the companies that are just trying to make that buck. So just make sure you're very cognizant of that. From my side of things, the big things that I wanted to highlight on it, and then I'll pass it to you guys, is both the mindful meditation practices. As mindset is always the key to everything, in my opinion. That's super important. And we're probably going to do an entire episode on practices like this, just because it is truly that important. And then the next for me would be trying to control parts of your environment that are inherently damaging to your body. So Wi-Fi, all that kind of stuff, very simple fixes. And then obviously making sure you're active. How can you, when you look at energy and you think about entropy, you've heard the thing of you don't use it, you'll lose it. I mean, it's kind of the same thing there, right? So like, if you're not being active, how can you expect to have, muscles and all of your organs to hold up? How are you going to expect that to hold up for 80, 90, 100 years, right? You have to make sure that they're actively working and being able to grow from that. And then I'll kind of pass the mic off to Dr. Saddoris and Leslie as well to kind of hit their key points.
Well, and again, the biggest thing is reducing inflammation in your body and increasing energy. And those are things that are so dependent on our diet also. I mean, we have our diet so filled with insecticides, but we have aluminum cans. I mean, the aluminum levels in our body is so much higher than it should be. It causes brain atrophy damage. It causes kidney problems. I actually got an aluminum level I did a test for this John, and it showed it was elevated. And I did a blood level, and they said, "Oh, that was okay." And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I shouldn't really have any, right? Or very minimal. And, just because I'm not at 9, which is considered toxic, and you're at 7, is not considered healthy. Okay. And I had to sit there and start saying, I just can't be taking things from aluminum, cans. And so trying to find things in jars is pretty challenging, or frozen, right? Or fresh, right? The biggest thing is I eliminated any juices or drinks out of aluminum cans. But, it's just that those are things that are so harmful to us. And we just don't realize that what others put in our food. And we're just maybe need to get back to getting more fresh and frozen foods and trying to stay away from the processing they do to food. They're taking our nutrients out, so that then we have to pay for supplements to retrace back in that was in there in the first place. Being cognizant that, we need to maintain our energy levels. And that's also things that start early in our life, in our late 20s. And those are things that maybe we need to start. If we're wanting to live a healthy life, that maybe we need to start at a much younger age to consider those things.
Definitely.
Yeah, the only thing I could really add to what the two of you are saying, and it might even, be echoing that, is just awareness. Logging, keeping tracks, find out where you are, where you need to go. If you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail.
Exactly.
It's just the way it is. We don't, if you want to buy a new house, you plan for that. You want to buy a new car, you plan for that. All these things we plan for as a society, we never plan for our longevity, anti-aging, health, things like that. So that's the biggest thing that I tell my clients, is like, hey, how can we make adjustments if you don't even know where you are right now? And we can't do that. So just be aware of it and, log what you're doing. Fitness standpoint, I log my fitness, I log my nutrition, I log my sleep. So everything is logged. So I know, hey, this is what goes on if I eat this, or if I don't get enough sleep, this is what happens. And, so just being aware is key.
Thank you so much for that. Oh yeah. And one last thing that you actually touched on briefly, Leslie, but I know that Dr. Saddoris and I kind of overlooked it, was sleep. Sleep is super important. Yeah. So make sure you guys are getting enough sleep. It will make your lives exponentially easier.
I'm going to go take a nap.
Well, there you go. Good.
I got soccer practice.
Like I said, though, this is going to be part 1 of a multi-part episode. So you guys are going to see a lot more about the brain, and we'll probably dip into some of these concepts a little bit more granularly next part as well, just to make sure that we cover them as we'd like to. So thank you guys for joining. Thank you for hosting as well, Leslie and Dr. Saddoris. And we're looking for continued listenership. Have a good day, guys.
So you just listened to this episode. Now, join us in being addicted to betterment. Please subscribe to the show, share with your friends, tag us, and please take a moment, leave a review. Yeah, we do want your stars, but we really want the feedback.